Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be going through some of the Atlassian Labs apps that Atlassian teams have created internally. These apps are built by Atlassian staff as experiments, giving us a sneak peek into features that might just be integrated into the main product, if they're popular enough. Remember that these apps are totally unsupported, so use them at your own discretion. In this video, we're diving in and ranking all of the Confluence Labs apps using our ultimate tier list. We're going to find out which apps deserve the coveted S tier rating, which apps are good enough for an A, and what might just hang out in the B tier. So grab your snacks, get comfortable, and let's explore these experimental apps together. So as you can see here, I've picked the 9 apps that are applicable for Confluence Cloud from Atlassian Labs. And you can see right off the bat, 2 of these apps currently don't work at the moment. So we will exclude them from our tier list. But that still leaves a really good chunk of apps that we can have a look at and see if it will benefit your team in any way. So let's take a look. So here's my tier list, and in classic Atlassian style, I'm going to be using Trello to do this. And I've got a column here for my apps that don't work anymore. And here are the apps we're going to be going through today. So first off, let's look at Decision Helper for Confluence. Here's a page with the decision macro on it, and you can see it lets us add an approver, a driver, who we've informed and who's contributing to this decision. A decision could be something your team's deciding on, for example, something that needs approval from a few members of staff. So what we can do here is we can add the relevant people, and then we can set the due date. And then what we can do here is we can start the review. So you'll see we've got this nice progress bar at the top. And if we click Start Review, it's going to progress us to the next stage. And then request approval, we can postpone or escalate these requests. And what this is going to do is add comments to the page, which will in turn notify the people here. So we'll see what that looks like. So if we click request approval, we can see as I'm the approver, I'm able to click approve here. And we can actually progress through, and we can create a number of these macros to decide on various things. If I reload the page, you'll see that's probably created a series of notifications, messages here. You can see it will have notified anyone commented or mentioned here with the changes that were made. So quite a simple tool. It lets you work through a series of steps. And in terms of options, you can decide between explicit approval, or you can choose general consensus as well. In general consensus, you won't have an explicit approver. You're going to have the people mentioned here will be the people deciding. So a nice tool for tracking decisions that you've made in Confluence. So what would I rank this as? So personally, I think this one, it's got quite a simple use case, but that can be really useful in certain circumstances where you're just trying to make a decision. So I think I'm going to put Decisions Helper as a B tier. So let's have a look now at the Better Code macro for Confluence. You might be aware Confluence has a code block macro that you can insert using backticks. It looks like this, and it has very limited customization options. So you can't change the theme of this except for globally in Confluence. It's quite limiting. You can't give it a title, for example. And then if I scroll down, you'll see this is the Better Code block, which has a lot more options for how we want to format this code block. Let's have a look at those options. So if we click on Better Code block and we click Edit, you'll see it lets us select from a larger amount of languages than the default code block. It lets us give our code block a title. And then my favorite feature from this is the theme feature. So it has a whole raft of themes here we can choose. So I'm going to pick Visual Studio. And you can see it changes the format of the code. So again, a really simple use case, but executed really nicely, I think. What are we going to give this on our tier list? Personally, I think this is This is actually going to be an A tier. I think it's really useful. It does what it's set out to do. There's a few features I think that could have been added. That's why it's an A tier, not an S tier for me. What's next? We have the event sign up for Confluence. This tool lets you create these little macros here, which have a title, and they allow people to RSVP to events and say they're going to be attending. So in terms of options, we've got the event title here. We can set a maximum number of people who can attend. We can change the text of this button. And finally, I really like these two final features. You can add a number of checkboxes you're going to ask people when they RSVP. And you can also allow them to leave comments. And I tested this before, and you can put multiple of these macros on a single page. So you could have say an events page for internal events at your company. And then if I click RSVP now, it's going to pop up with a list of options that we entered before. And we can also leave a comment. And if you click there, nice and simple, your name goes in here. You get the comment there. You can also see the options they picked. And finally, you can see how big the quorum is in the group. So again, I really like this tool. It's nice and simple. I can see it being used for small teams internally for like signing up to events or potentially choosing what you're going to have for lunch. So I think, again, it's a well thought out app. And I'm going to give it a B tier because I think the concept is great. I think it's nice and simple product. I think the way that you insert the options here and the amount of options could be expanded upon. So let's take a look at the next one. We've got the Mermaid diagram viewer. I've created a page and I'm just going to show you how to create this, how to render Mermaid using this free tool. So the first thing you need to do is add a code block. So you can add a code block by typing /code. And in here, you want to paste your Mermaid syntax. And then underneath here, we're going to add the Mermaid diagram macro here. And what you're going to see is this lets us either automatically detect which code block that we want to pick, or we can pre-select one. So my understanding is this selects the nearest code block to where you've inserted this macro. And as you'll see when we update the page, really simply, it takes the code that you have in this code block and it will actually render it inside here. And you can click on it to get a full screen view and you can zoom in and out, pan that around. It's a really nice tool for very basic diagrams. A few like little things you could do to clean this page up so you don't have this big code block, and that's to add the expand macro. So using the expand macro, you can actually hide this. So we can hide the diagram code while still showing the diagram above. So I think that kind of makes this tool a bit tidier to use. So I'd have to put the Mermaid diagram viewer into A tier. I think personally, I still would keep the code macro above it. So our list is starting to shape up now. So we've only got 3 more Labs products to take a look at now. The next one, this one's a doozy. This one's the previous and next navigation for Confluence. It's also called PageTurner. So if you're looking for it in the macros, that's where it is. But yeah, what this lets you do is a feature of a number of documentation sites is add at the bottom of your page a nice back and forwards indicator here. And you can choose from expanded, it's where it puts one on each line, or you can choose compact where they're alongside each other. So especially for guides where you want people to go through a structured process, this is really cool. You can see I've got getting started on the left, how to resolve permissions on the right, and if I click, it takes me to the backwards one, and if I click forwards, it takes me forwards. And if you do this across your whole guided space, you can set up these really nice flows where you can easily progress to the next level. I think this one's a really cool tool. I think it's set out to do something and it did it, and it brings across a feature that a lot of products have as well. So it's a difficult one where this one goes. I think for me, this one probably goes in the middle here. It's a lot more applicable than some of the other tools here that I've showed, but actually I think that's good. It will apply to a lot more people than, say, some of the other ones here. Okay, next up, we've got localized dates for Confluence. I've created a table on this page with some of these localized date macros. So let's contrast that with the built-in date format. The built-in date format does not account for time zones, it does not support time zones, and it will not dynamically change which date is shown to people depending on where they are in the world. So, as you probably know, it could be the 28th of February in the UK, whereas in Australia it could be a different day than here. So it's really useful to be able to put in these with actual time zones on them. Also, the built-in date does not support adding time either. So what the localized date macro lets you do, if I open up this configurator, is it lets you set a time, a date, and a time zone, and then you can choose between a number of options here on how you want to display this date. So you could display it in the current date, i.e. that the person viewing this page will see a different date depending on where they are. You can select to show it with the configured time zone, as in the time zone shown here. Or you can show UTC times. So let's have a look what those look like. These look the same. UTC is going to show both of the time formats. And then I really like this additional feature they've added, which is the ability to show a countdown clock or a T minus or plus for the date. So what I did here was just copied, if I copy this date here to this column and then edit it and simply set this to the countdown thing, you can see it gives us a nice relative date here to show how long things are away. It's an area where Confluence could do better with handling of time zones, seeing as we all live in a fully distributed world nowadays. That is the localized date macro. Again, really well thought out app idea. It solves a very specific problem. It's a shame that it doesn't integrate with any of the other tools in Confluence, but it will help your team at least know that when you put a time, it's the same time for them. So for me, I'm going to put this one in S tier. And now on to the last one. So this one is called Audio Recorder for Confluence. And what Audio Recorder for Confluence lets you do is add a recording into your pages. Say on this page, I wanted to add at the top something, a recording of me talking through this page. I could type /audio and then select Audio Recorder. Then if I click update, you'll see it's going to give me an area for me to record my message. So let's give that a go. Welcome to VitaFleet. We're excited to have you on board. This guide will help you navigate your first steps with us. And then I simply click the save button and I can give this one a name. So let's call this intro. And now if I reload this page, you'll see everyone that comes onto this page will have access to play this audio. I really like the fact that you can see how many people have listened to it, how many seconds they listened, and what the completion rate is. You can download the file or you can delete or recreate the recording. And as far as I'm aware, this will save it as an attachment on the page. So you can easily manipulate this or use it in a different piece of software. So for me, the audio recorder is another S tier. It does what it's set out to do. There we have it. Our complete tier list ranking of Atlassian Confluence Labs apps. Do you agree with these rankings? Did your favorite app make it to the S tier? Or do you think I got it totally wrong? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so be sure to comment below and let me know. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more content, and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Until next time, thanks for watching, stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next video.